So, hold on a second. So I am in North Carolina for a couple weeks. I had to escape Vermont because this time of year can be really sketchy, and it's mud season, which means there's nothing coming up right now. So I'm skipping out and trying to get to spring early, and so I came 1,000 miles south to do that. Looking for springtime plants right now. So I'm out on this, I found this little power line. There's actually like a graveyard on it, which is really weird. I've never seen a graveyard on a power line before. But I did find a native violet. That's the first native plant I've seen. We stopped over in a place called Staunton, Virginia last night and stayed in like an old, I don't know what the new term is for them, but an old hospital. So that was pretty interesting. But so I'm gonna, on this journey of 2 weeks, I'm gonna loop you into native plants that are blooming right now and probably see a lot of other cool stuff. So welcome, and let's do this. So overall, this place looks pretty cool. There's broom sedge blue stem here, lots of what looks like multiflora rose and invasive things. I'm gonna see if I can find that pansy again, because it's kind of interesting. It has leaves that aren't really pansy-like in any way. Well, before we go there, this is like, you know, those broom sedge blue stems, Andropogon virginicus, you see that in New England, Rhode Island a lot. That's where I see it most often, Connecticut too. But then the trees behind them are much different. So we're looking at Pinus virginiana, the Virginia pine. I just looked these up. So these are bundles of 2 only in the fascicle. So these all have 2. They're like 2 to 8 centimeters long. And then they're also like 0.5 millimeter to 1.2 millimeters wide, which these are. You know, my measuring thing is like 5 for every tick. So, you know, it's well under, it's just, you know, it's probably under 1 millimeter on this right now. But very cool to see this. I've never actually noticed these before. But they're native. They go up the East Coast pretty far. So not Table Mountain pine, Pinus virginiana. Of course, Lonicera japonica everywhere in here. The interesting thing about these is that the real young ones have leaves that look more oak-like than honeysuckle-like. And as they get older, they get the regularly shaped leaves that look like this. So the ones on the bottom are usually that oak shape, and then you get other ones that are the normal leaf shape, which is kind of cool, even though it's invasive. Very invasive. Look at how invasive it is. It's everywhere on this power line. Everywhere I see, almost everywhere I go in North Carolina, this stuff shows up. So bad stuff. And then check this out. Graveyard under a power line. That's so weird. I guess these people don't care. Here's those violets like I promised, growing right in the graveyard. So that yellow lip. They the other one that kind of looks like this is Viola canadensis. This has a much longer name. I've actually never known that I've seen this species before, but it is like the only native thing here. And then if you look at the leaves on it, I'm gonna pull this one up. Look at these leaves. They're like not viola like at all, or at least what I'm used to. They're like long and slender. They almost look like mugwort leaves, which is really weird, but pretty little flower. So this is native. This is American field pansy, but it's a viola species. This is a plant called Obalaria. Is it rare? It's not rare. I don't see it up where I live. But down here, it's one of the early springtime plants.
How long does it last?
Plectrum himalae with those like pinstripe leaves. Old fruits on them. orchid family.
Orchid family.
So even after Helene, 6 months ago, there's still stuff floating down the river. And 6 months to the day, we had wildfires in Table Rock near Pickens, South Carolina. So this is smoke from that. And if you've never been down south, you need to get Bojangles. It is the best fast food ever. So I've been walking around where I've been staying in North Carolina. You know, everything within walking distance, looking for different plants, looking for native habitats. And for the most part, North Carolina, at least the Asheville city limits area, is pretty much made of like, you know, a handful of species. And I'm just talking about like the herbaceous understory plants, but people planting vinca and English ivy just around their house and like newly planted locations for that stuff. And so I just walked through like this little industrial park and I found like the most native habitat I've seen yet with a bunch of Virginia pine and bushy bluestem and a bunch of other things that aren't coming up. But I'm starting to walk into the woods now, down into another section. So I'm going to take you with me. But let's see what's on the ground. I found some trout lilies, which is very exciting. I'm going to check and see if they're the dimpled trout lilies or not. So let's look at those. Here's what I was kind of talking about earlier. I've been walking around looking for like the most native looking habitats. And this one right here looks the best, even though it's in this like industrial complex office space area. But look, all the bushy bluestem. There's a bunch of regenerating Virginia pine in here with an overstory of matured Virginia pine, and then a bunch of other like native stuff. But I've noticed that around this area, like there's patches of this bushy bluestem in areas, and that strikes me as, you know, probably the native vegetation and what should be here. And instead people are planting like, you know, English ivy and vinca and all this other crap. And really it should look like this. I mean, it's gorgeous. I would love to have a piece of property with this on it. I wonder what else is here during the growing season. Very sandy. So this is the dimpled trout lily. And the difference here is you gotta look at the fruit that's forming on the inside here, and you can see that little dimple in there, kind of highlighted. I don't want to take these apart. There's some thought that these like purplish anthers are also a species differentiation, as well as the lack of auricles on these petals. So cool. I've never actually seen this species before. I just had to key it out, but it's very cool. So you can see down here, there's a bunch of green. I'm gonna go look at that. But these trout lilies ended up being in higher propensity than I thought they would be. They're all kind of on this like slope going down here into this drainage, which is pretty big drainage that runs down to a train track. And then there's Beaver Dam Creek on the other side of that got whacked by the Hurricane Helene. All right, so we came down to our green patch. Look at how gorgeous these things are. Just like getting lit up by the sun. And we also have some spring beetles in here. These are the narrow-leaved ones. So this is Virginiana, is the name on that. Those leaves right there are very narrow. You see fatter leaves, it's Caroliniana. But look at these. This is where it's at. And these are like all over this hillside, just everywhere. That same trout lily. Just, you can't go a step without finding it. It's everywhere. There's like a waterfall back here. This probably all got torn out during that hurricane. A nice waterfall there. That's where we came from with all that dimpled trout lily. Some spice bush stuff down in here. Lots of multiflora rose, lots of Japanese honeysuckle, lots of trash. This is like all storm damage from Helene. You can see where the water just went around this, hit the train track. All that gravel's new. So I bet that whole thing got like, you know, the bottom of it got eaten out. and it just eroded, and that train track was probably suspended in there. But the waters now goes around that way as well as this way, and a bunch of trees down. But hopefully it's not all invasive plants that come back in here. That's gonna suck if that's the case. But I mean, that waterfalls, I don't know what it looked like before, but it's kind of, there's a swimming hole right there. I don't know that I'd swim in it, but we'll cross over on this little sycamore, get up in here. I want to check out this side, see what's going on. There's also like always chives around. Onions, wild onions, just like everywhere. Almost everywhere I go, these things show up. Yards, the woods, riverbanks, sandy deposits like this. It's hard to believe that this thing like hung on through 30 inches of rain in a day, but here you go. So there you go. There's the Goodyear pubescens. It has that, it's called, rattlesnake orchid, but it has that really fine venation. There's actually a few species in New England and probably down here. But so there's that modeling, and then you have the modeling on these trout lily leaves, which looks like dappled sunlight coming through, so they blend in with all the other leaves when there's light coming in here, and deer can't find them, which is a super cool adaptation. So here's another native species. This is Trillium thalictroides. So you guys focus there. White balance is kind of out. These are like gorgeously white flowers. They have those, if you're familiar with like meadow rue, they're in the same genus. They have those meadow rue shaped flowers or petals, leaves, and these like kind of big flowers for what they are. And they're all growing in this little, you can see them kind of spaced out everywhere in here. But I was wondering, I was like, I'm gonna find other species in here. This place looks too cool. But look at it, it's full of trash. There's like an industrial thing up here. People have just been like probably years and years of trash just falling down the hill. It's kind of gross because there's some cool stuff in here. And then that train track in the river's down there. We were over there before, walked all the way around. The other side there is like pretty much invasive hell. There's English ivy, vinca. Please don't plant any vinca. A few spice bush, but it's mostly like non-native, like plants that come up as weeds. A bunch of like mustard type stuff and just garbage. And here's another one that does it. This is a young smilax, so probably a seedling. Also has the modeling on the leaves. Before it gets armature, there's those thorns that help protect it. It's probably pretty highly susceptible to deer browse, so having those mottled leaves is a benefit for this plant out here, where there's not a lot of stuff going on right now for the deer to eat. Look at the level of just like destruction down in here. Holy shit. So there's a little ridge here, goes down on both sides. This completely blasted. Look at all the trees that are just down in here. I was gonna walk down this ridge and I might not be able to with all these down trees. It's insane. And there's a bunch of cool plants here already that I can see. These are sweet cicely. I don't know what species. There's a bunch of it in here. And then we've also got, there's a hydrophyllum. Let's see if we got it. So I don't know which hydrophyllum this is, but it's definitely one that I haven't seen before, I think. This is probably macrophylla or virginiana. I'm not sure. I'm gonna walk down a little further and see if there's any way to get down there. So I believe these are hydrophyllum macrophyllum. There's a lot of hair on the leaves. Go in here. You can see that the sun's hitting that just right. You can see how much hair is there. mottling again on these leaves, because water leaf is a early springtime plant, so there's not a whole lot else out here. But look at the coloration on that thing. It's cool. It's almost like an animal. So seeing this up on a hillside makes me think, like, what sort of natural community changes are going to happen here. And you know, there's a bunch of like really cool plants in here that I can at least find from scrambling around through all this stuff. This is what it looks like on the ground, so that's like head height, you know, and look out there and imagine all of that stuff being head height. Like, I can't get through that. So, you know, our invasive's gonna come in here because of all this. The canopy's basically been removed throughout this whole area. And it's, I mean, deer won't be able to get in here very easily probably. So maybe the plants that are here will do better, but the amount of light is like overnight it changed. And so at least it was in the fall. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting, you know, ecological study to see what happens with this. You know, somebody should get out here and like inventory the thing. So here's a good example, multiflora rose. Now all of a sudden given a bunch of light, and this will continue to grow. And there's only like, you know, overall, like, there's not a lot of invasives in here, but I haven't seen it fully like vegged out. But Oriental bittersweet. So there's definitely going to be seed flushes in here, I would imagine, at least in localized areas. Like, it's on that side of the hill too. Damn, all these root balls. Look, they're everywhere. Luckily, I come from a forestry background where I used to climb through slash like this all the time. This is a bridge up to that next little level up there so I can get back up the hill. I'm not going to go down any further. It's just too bad. So we got the first flower. So this is bloodroot, sanguinaria canadensis, and its leaf there, which will sort of emerge. This is like probably the first one blooming out on this hillside. So we've got that hydrophyllum again. I think this is macrophyllum, but I can't be sure without having inflorescence. This particularly beautiful patterning, almost like a Rorschach test. Then we got May apples coming up, so just starting to come in. I'm glad I came around this ridge because it's a much richer, looks like from the plant life, a much richer soil type. And then we got those, there's more of those hydrophyllums. We got the Plectrum himalaya, which is fruiting, so it's producing seed, which is cool. I wonder how much sunlight these orchids can take, because there's definitely going to be, like, look at, there's like nothing up here. These trees are going to die. So I just came up the other side of the ridge. Look at this. You can see a line of where just a blast came through. And there's a V right in the middle. Damn. Standing on a little rock outcrop. Found this little yellow, I knew it was a cordalis just by the shape of the flowers. But I started keying it out. I went into iNaturalist and see what that said. And it said flavula. And so then I started keying it out with the weekly key, and it seems like it's probably an S1 annual micrantha, which is super interesting. There's just one little patch here. They're probably very hard to key just from leaves. This is where we're standing, and I mean, it's like down in this little barberry patch. And I pulled out some non-native things in here. Bittersweet. Bittersweet buds, not even able to do anything about. But look at these flowers. These are cordalis. There's a spur on them. It has to do with how wide the flowers are. And then I think flavula has like longer pedicels for these flowers, so they kind of stick out. These are all kind of sessile. And they also have like a little bract there. So I need to do a little more research, but I'm pretty sure and the division in the leaves. It's also with this other plant here. Kind kind of see it growing there. I thought it was some invasive stuff, but it's a Phacelia dubia, I think. I'd have to see it flower to know for sure. But very cool find. If it is S1, like, find it, rare plants everywhere. So it's April 1st. Heading to a really cool place. It's colloquially known as the Yosemite of the East. It's called Panther Town. It's in a town called Glenville, and I'm meeting up with my buddy Adam Bigelow, who runs Bigelow Botanical Excursions here in the mountains. And you can go out with him and take plant tours and stuff like that. But we're going to check out this place. It's early spring, so I hope we're gonna see some cool plants that normally you wouldn't be able to see. It is like a really interesting, nice community, natural community. Lots of rhododendron coming in here. It's probably about, looks like it's 45 degrees right now. It's been particularly warm and really dry, so they've been having fires at Table Rock State Park, just near Pickens, South Carolina, right on the North Carolina line, and in different places in Transylvania County. And so that's kind of scary. It did rain the last day a little bit. Maybe they got like 3/10 of an inch of rain or something. But yeah, we'll check back in when we're at the spot.
I could be cool like you, and I had a whole series of little short videos I shot that was just me coming up and giving dabs and going, "Hey buds, hey buds," and then another group of plants, "Hey buds."
I feel like that would be great.
I think it would hit.
The feather bush.
The feather bush, and it blooms before any leaves come on the shrub. So.
And the leaves look like...
So they look like mountain laurel, little leaf rhododendron, or any of these green glossy leaves. It really kind of like fades into the background, except for the seed pods.
Yeah.
By the time summer.
Yeah, I mean, I would have, walking up to this or seeing it from far away, I would have been like, oh, those are leaves.
Yeah, right.
They just look like early leaves.
Yep. And I love the hard capsule.
I mean, it looks familiar, right?
Yeah.
Like,
wow. Hyacinth.
Do you have native hyacinths down here?
There is. Really cool. Also, the midsummer, mid-July, when this is, we'll make sure it's on the description, and I'll make sure to tell you about, you probably want to bring swimming trunk, the schoolhouse, because why not? I got funded before Helene, so it was good that they had things ready to go. I wasn't able to get directly involved in it, so I'm not sure what
the goal?
If they did like any kind of annual grass. It looks like there's an annual grass seeded out, which is okay.
But like, they were just trying to save this bank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bank's eroding. The sandbar is losing it a little bit too. So the sandy area, though, they're cool. They put in steps. That's good. There's some cool stuff down in here, including sweet azalea will be blooming both here and at the overlook or the waterfall. Got a shrubby St. John's wort.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of those. And here's all When I grew up on the coast of Virginia at the beach, right? And I first moved up here 32 years ago and came to Panthertown in the first year, and I was like, how did they get all this sand here? Did somebody truck it in? What the hell? So this is the beautiful sweet azalea, hydrangea arborescens, or rhododendron arborescens. Sweet smelling, white flowers, pink stamens.
Yeah.
Super fragrant.
You ever see that? What's it called? Fergilla? Fergilla?
Fothergilla?
Yeah.
Not up here. It's up more Piedmont.
Okay.
Yeah. The what is it? Witch alder, maybe?
Yeah, witch alder.
Fothergilla. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a beach here.
It's like a beach. It is. Sandy ass beach with St. John's Wort.
Cinnamon bark plethora.
Yeah.
So this is the mountain
Sweet pepper bush.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have fragrance.
Huh.
And this is pretty common understory shrub down here in the bottom. We also have yellow buckeye. Will be in the woods. Poplar. For the last 2 years, a different series of floods happening. And then Helene did a real knockout. But again, they had this project slated already. Okay, there must be up above. This is great. This is great. Wow. One thing I'm glad to see is they're not using any of that. Driving my backup vehicle, which I can't take on longer trips, and my regular car's in the shop. But I was kind of disappointed because I had plans to go into the Piedmont to see the Pixanthidia or something, the little pixie case. It means sharp and pointed, like a sharp cheese. All this is low bush blueberry. They'll be ripe. There's some taller blueberries along the edge, but these are the. And the thing is about these trees is they haven't been topped, and there's 2 of them side by side, and they're good 40 foot wide and spread. You know, I mean, 10 feet tall at the most.
So this is the like dwarfed nature of them is because of the weather up here.
Yeah, wind shear.
Just exposure. Oh, look at these cones. Oh shit.
If you were in a pine cone battle with your cousin,
It would hurt somebody. It would hurt somebody for sure.
and they're serratinous as hell. I had one that I picked from here and took home, and it was hanging from my rearview mirror. And then one day, I opened up my car and there was pine seeds all over my dashboard.
The heat opened it up.
Yeah.
Oh, look at these young ones. There's like young cones on here too.
Yeah. Soon they'll flower. And the fascicle is free and twisted.
Oh, I see that they're twisted.
Yeah.
These look like they're in 2s though.
Is it 2s?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, it's 2s.
It's hard to remember.
Yep. 2 and twisted. That's right. Pitch pine is 3.
Yeah.
3 strikes.
And what about, you guys have red pine down here?
Mm-mm.
No. Huh.
We got
Yeah.
You know, if I owned the property where I lived, I would be bringing the university up to study the impact of the tornado debris field versus the hurricanes, and see if there's any difference in the disturbance and recovery of similar sites from a different kind of storm. I think that could be a really interesting question
Yeah.
to look at. But my landlord ain't like that. He's a land developer and a clearer and a paver, and runs dump trucks that have a Trump sticker on the back.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of telling his wife that all I could see in his trucks was dump Trump. She didn't think it was funny. I thought it was fucking hilarious. They still let me live there, so that's all that matters. I'm at 3,600 feet in a north-facing slope with seepage and springs, and it's just spring wildflower heaven. Really cool stuff, like big populations of dwarf larkspur, corn,
Yeah.
and trillium basii, and just really beautiful dark, almost black trillium basii flowers.
Oh wow. Is that what most of Cullowhee's like?
No,
So you have like
it's special.
a rich cove or something?
I'm up in a rich cove, yeah. And then I just got turned on to a new site that's down on the other side of the ridge and down the road, but there's a amphibolite mountain up there that's supposed to have some rare things.
Like what?
I'm not sure because the botanist for the state couldn't tell me.
Wouldn't tell you.
She could have told me and wouldn't tell me.
Yeah.
And I said, but there's rare cool things there, right? And she was like, yes. Like what? I signed a non-disclosure. I think she's young. So, by the time they get older and jaded, they'll share with us.
Yeah, I mean, you could also just, where it is. You just go there and look for yourself.
That's what I'm going to do this
Yeah.
spring. That's my goal. And then there's a site near there that's owned by a local conservation group that has the plant Frasera, American Columbo.
Yep, I've seen that.
That's a weird
It's gentian family.
gentian family.
Yep.
Lives anywhere from 5 to 30 years and then blooms and dies. Really cool.
Yeah, I saw those with Gary Kaufman up on right near. He took us somewhere separately to go look at.
So we're down here in Highlands Plateau on the side of the road. And what Owen Carson, my buddy, labeled as his favorite roadside bog to look at Golden Club, Aruntium aquaticum, and it's blooming right there.
Yeah, it's funny. Like,
Yeah.
so